But I can't tell you on a daily basis the number of offers that I get for positions as a person who's in education.
Wow.
If you're a teacher, you'll always have a job.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an engineer, you'll likely always have a job. If you're a nurse, they have a nursing shortage and a teacher shortage going on right now. And so it's easy to create a pattern for career success and career ascension within those disciplines, and to have some stability in terms of your financial portfolio and lifestyle.
Absolutely. And that's equally important, as you mentioned, because as we share here at Wealth of the Nation, the components of wealth are not just financial. Often we think of financial capital, which is one of what we call our pillars of wealth, but the other four include intellectual capital. And that is that it's gained throughout the educational process, whether it be in our formalized education or the education that we expose ourselves to. And I was sharing with the gentleman that in my commute, I try and make it an educational experience. Always listening to something that'll enrich me personally and expand my mind. Right now, for those of you who are listening, I'm working on my vocabulary, but it's an ever growing tool that I believe all of us use. They talk about President Obama's oratory, but his command of the vocabulary, the command of the language, I believe is definitely helped to elevate him.
Well, I think that's such a critical point. And in education for quite some time, at least 20 years, we've been talking about a commitment to lifelong learning. And that commitment to lifelong learning is not only formal education, but also the things that you talk about. Picking something that advantages you in the job market, that expands your intellectual horizons, that increases your cultural knowledge. Attending museums, certainly those kind of things in an area like DC are very easy to do. We've got to keep in mind that as part of that conversation, that only about 26% of the American population has a college degree.
Wow.
So most of our labor market is based on a workforce that is not college educated. So these commitments to lifelong learning, expanding our social networks, increasing our investment in ourselves and ourself through a variety of activities is really quite important.
What you just shared is really just another component of the pillars of wealth, because that's like the human capital, that investment in ourselves. And you mentioned expanding our social networks. Those relationships are key, to our advancement. Ultimately, they say it's not necessarily what you know, but who you know. And I've heard it even said, not necessarily who you know, but who knows you. So it's a combination. But the fact is, it's more than wealth is actually more than money. And I'm so pleased that we have you here to even expound more on the intellectual capital component, which the basis of is education. I know you mentioned there's about 25% or so of the population that holds the bachelor's degree. And for those who may even see themselves at a crossroad where they're needing to reinvent themselves or pursue other opportunities, perhaps they can be encouraged that maybe they do go and build upon the couple of years of education that they have already gotten at a post-secondary level. Perhaps you can share on that. What are some of the benefits that are noticed statistically?
Oh, sure. Every few years, the Census Bureau and the Department of Labor release some statistics about the advantages to holding a college degree. And typically they're comparing individuals who have a high school degree, a high school diploma with those who attend college or graduate or professional school.
Sure.
And we see these articles about college, earning potential. And, if you had an economist here, they would tell you that these statistics are kind of complicated.
Okay.
And so I'm going to cite some statistics, and then I'm going to back up and talk about why they're complicated. But generally, the statistics tell us that an individual who has a high school degree, his or her lifetime earning potential is about $1.2 million, and that's during the working years from 25 to 64. To me, that doesn't sound like a lot of money for that period of time. That's a long time to live. $1.2 million is not a lot of money, really. Right. A college person, on average, during their work years, $2.1 million. So you see it's about double.
Yeah.
And then someone with a master's degree, $2.5 million.
Wow.
And someone with a graduate or a professional degree, $4.4 million. So you see a huge jump when you start getting into graduate and professional degrees, JDs, PhDs, MDs, DVMs, that whole alphabet soup of degrees.